Hi, everybody. I'm Candid Frankie's there in William Freeland. And of course, this is Leaf Talk, where we talk about everything Maple Leaf. And that doesn't mean the Maple Leafs in the National Hockey League only. It means those that wear the Maple Leaf proudly. And also by Maple Leaf, I'm referring to Canadians. So we talk about the Canadian NHL teams and, of course, all the sports that feature Canadian cities, Canadian leagues, and Canadian teams, even in American leagues, which the Maple Leafs are one. So let's start with the Maple Leafs. And Scott Laughton seems to be somebody that's being dangled by the Maple Leafs for future considerations. This team has played a lot like they want to be in the past. So I guess, having said that, they're looking for future considerations, things that they can get in the future. And tell us about the Flyers and how they help the Leafs.
So as it currently stands, when the Leafs picked up Scotty Laughton, he was under cost control by the Flyers for another 2 years when they picked him up last year. He's on an expiring deal. The good news is the Flyers kept half of his salary at that point in time during the trade. Now, the Leafs are in a situation where they're able to return further salary. So another team would be getting a fourth line center or maybe, up the lineup for a bargain basement price, not only because Philadelphia has already retained, but because of the fact that it's now a year on, Toronto can also retain money on him as well. This is the old double retention thing that the NHL was looking to block, especially when it came to 3-team trades. So they're able to take advantage of it this year. Because he's on an expiring deal and it ends this year. They're able to take advantage of that fact and further discount what they're doing. Because Laughton's going to be a UFA at the end of the season, given the Maple Leafs position in the standings currently, he's not realistically somebody that they'd want to keep as much as he may be a fan favorite or, may help them win in the short term. That's not what they're looking for right now. So, Laughton could be that kind of player because Philadelphia has already retained on him. That could give the Leafs a bit of a leg up.
Yeah, he'll be a cheaper pickup. Let's talk about them and the Flyers meeting and on Monday, and wasn't a great showing by the Leafs.
Speaking of the Leafs helping the Flyers helping the Leafs trade Laughton, they've further made the case that the Leafs are further down in the basement. And Matvei Michkov and Trevor Zegras both scored in a shootout, and the Flyers beat the Leafs 3-2. Nylander scored on the Leafs' first shootout attempt, but Austin Matthews and Max Domi failed to convert. Noah Cates converted a pass from Bobby Brink with 5:18 remaining in regulation to give the Flyers a 2-1 lead, which made things a little bit hairy for those that were hoping the Leafs would be able to pull it out. But Nylander managed to convert a beautiful saucer pass from John Tavares with 2:30 left to tie it up and send it there. Most notable amongst the line changes that Berube made was to put Matthews alongside Nylander. Dakota Joshua scored the game's opening goal at 15:22 of the first period, knocking in a pass from Matias Maccelli. That's Joshua's first goal since returning last week after missing 2 months with a lacerated kidney. That is a tough one to come back from. Nicholas Roy between Dakota Joshua and Matias Maccelli was the most effective line for the Leafs. Travis Konechny missed the game with a lower body injury. He was actually a game time decision. He took morning skate, but did not take warm-ups.
Maple Leafs trade deadline problems are already 2 deals old. Explain.
So the way that things worked, they made 2 trades last year at around this time that ended up being failures that set them back. And it's kind of put them in this rather unfavorable selling corner that they currently find themselves in. The first one was Brandon Carlo for Fraser Minton and a 2026 first-round pick, top 5 protected, to the Bruins to get Carlo. And then there was the Scotty Laughton trade where they sent Nikita Grigovenkin in a 2027 first-rounder, again, top 10 protected, to Philadelphia for the center. Now, Laughton's a trade candidate on an expiring contract. Carlo hasn't really done all that much for them. And in Boston, Minton's been awesome just to, add fuel to the fire there. Toronto spent this year's first and an NHL-ready 20-year-old on their number 5 defenseman based on time on ice. They also spent next year's first and an NHL-ready 22-year-old on their number 9 forward, Scotty Laughton, based on time on ice. If they can't get a first for anyone they have now, I don't see how this is not a massive indictment of management. You know, a season like the Leafs have had for as high-profile franchise as this often leads to changes beyond just those that are going to happen at the trade deadline. For Toronto to rebound and move in the right direction, they might need some serious structural changes as well. So we'll see where they're at. Friday comes and goes, but we really should be selling.
I don't know if I want to insert this comment here, but I guess, and the segue will be Chris Tanev. You're going to talk a little bit about Chris Tanev and the bad situation that he finds himself in. When people suggest that the injury situation didn't affect the Leafs this season, someone who sometimes appears to be overly critical of the Maple Leafs, being me, even I, in my criticism, must admit I forgot about Chris Tanev. And he's been gone so long, and he's been a big part of why the Leafs have not been as good. We know how good he is. We know the hole that he fills. We know that because of him, you don't have Riley playing in 1 or 1A. So when it comes to that, and Tanev is essentially their best defensive defenseman. What is the biggest problem with the Maple Leafs? And that goes even before this year, even last year, was their poor defensive play and their inability to come out of their own zone. Chris Tanev is not a guy who's going to skate through the other team. He's going to retrieve the puck, make a short pass, and that pass will be to a player who can leave the zone. That's important. Now, he alone is not the reason why the Leafs are the way they are. But there is a domino effect, which injuries, that's the problem with injuries. They create a domino effect where a player that you rely on that fits a certain role that you don't have elsewhere on the team, when he goes down, there's nobody to replace him in that important role that he plays. That's a Tanev thing. When you look in the dictionary and you go, hard to replace on your team, Tanev is probably there at the top of the list.
Yeah.
They're up there with Matthews and Nylander and last year, Marner.
No, he is definitely one of those guys that is very, very tough to replace. And it was, 2 concussions and then a groin injury. I mean, he was practicing solo. He was a great shot blocker, first pass puck mover. He finally took the option of surgery this morning in New York City. His procedure was apparently a success, and he's expected back for training camp in September. Back in the first 7 games of the season, he actually suffered the first of 2 concussion-related injuries. And then November 1st, he was stretchered off after colliding with Matvei Michkov. Again, not a deliberate hit, just an accidental collision. Nothing malicious intended by Michkov at all, just bad place, bad timing. He then returned to action, but got hurt in December against Detroit in a really unfortunate fluke accident, but that resulted in core muscle surgery, which usually refers to the repairing of torn or detached abdominal and groin muscles. So this tells you where he's at in that regard, but they expect him to be ready to go come September. So a long bit of recovery for Mr. Tanev, but glad to see that he's got the help that he needs.
Is he the poster boy for the questions that have been raised about the medical staff in Toronto that has apparently and looks like they've mishandled a lot of the injuries that the Leaf players have had? That they've really maybe it's only because the way the Leafs don't want to say anything. So people are left to try and figure out what it is that's wrong with a Leaf player, and then the repair or the fix or the working on injuries. It doesn't seem like the plan makes sense. They've had some very seriously long injuries these past 2 years, and I guess Tanev's the poster boy for that. Like,
Even Matthews fighting off lingering
yeah,
issues, and the fact that Nylander managed to tweak a groin celebrating after scoring a goal. Like I'm not 100% sure what's going on with the Maple Leafs medical staff at this point. I'm not sure if anybody's really qualified to speak on that, but it definitely seems to be a very puzzling situation where players are injured that shouldn't necessarily be injured and appear to be coming back before they're fully recovered.
Or the diagnosis requires that a player goes to Germany or Switzerland.
Yeah, it's just very confusing, man.
That's the thing with hindsight being such a wonderful thing that keeps scratching my brain is, are you telling me the Leafs couldn't, within North America, within their knowledge base and their ability to bring their players to be dealing with a problem, that they couldn't deal with it in Canada or the US, and they had to, Matthews, it sounded like he went on his own? Like that's a show. Yeah. To me, that felt like a show of lack of faith in the doctors that are handling you. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying it looks like it. And perception sometimes is reality. At least it appears to be. All right. Well, enough about we killed that horse is dead. I think we killed it good. All right. Let's talk about the Jays and the fact that their season is beginning. I had a chance to watch some of the Canadian national team playing them. They played the Phillies today, the Canadian national team. So when we talk about the Blue Jays in this section, we can also talk about the Canadian national team.
So Riley Tirada hit a 3-run homer in the 8th inning. Toronto beat Canada's national baseball team 10-7 in an exhibition game yesterday. Tirada's homer came after Canada came back to tie the game after giving up 7 runs over the first 2 innings. It was the first of Canada's 2 games against Major League Baseball opposition. Jesus Sanchez drove in 3 runs, and Kevin Gossman pitched 2 scoreless innings to take the Jays to an early lead. But Canada started to chip away at the deficit once it started getting deep into the Jays' bullpen. They actually managed to tie the game with a 4-run 8th inning, led by a solo home run from Jacob Robson. Jack Cushing, who was charged with a blown save in the 8th, came back out for the 9th after Tirada's homer and worked a scoreless inning to get the win. Brock Dickhorn took the loss after giving up the go-ahead homer in the 8th. Canada played Philly this afternoon. I unfortunately missed that. What was the score of that one, Frank? Did you happen to catch it?
No, 11-10.
Okay, so another barn burner, basically. But, Team Canada looks dependable. It just takes them a little while to get going. I know I saw a lot of disparaging comments online from American fans who happened to be watching the game saying, ha ha, they had another sport Canada can't play. America's going to own you. It's one of those situations where it's like, be better people, be better winners. But, I have high hopes for the World Baseball Classic this year. So we'll see how Canada does in that.
As we do in our personal life, and as we all need to learn, and sometimes it's our weakness, is that we can't handle criticism. My advice to Canadians is try to handle the criticism better. Speaking of criticism, 3 prospects were criticized enough that they were sent from the big team down to the minor league team. Aaron, tell us more about that.
So the Blue Jays have actually sent down left-handed pitcher Adam Macko to AAA and sent Fernando Perez and Gage Stanifer to minor league camp. Mitch Bannon of The Athletic reported that he expects both of them to start the season at AA New Hampshire with the Fisher Cats. Stanifer was just ranked as the number 6 prospect in the organization by MLB Pipeline, while Perez was listed at number 16. Stanifer is one of the more exciting pitching prospects in the Blue Jays organization. This is a position that they constantly need to fill. Macko is a 25-year-old native of Slovakia and was drafted in the 7th round of the 2019 draft by the Mariners. They traded him to Toronto before the 2023 deadline for outfielder Teoscar Hernandez. He hasn't played a game in the major leagues yet, but he went 15-26 in the minors with a 4.53 ERA. Stanifer is from Indianapolis. He played as high as AA ball last season, making 2 appearances at that level. In 27 total appearances between single A, high A, and AA, he went 8-6 with a 2.86 ERA. And Perez, now 22, was signed at the 2022 international signing period out of Nicaragua. He's made 26 appearances in 2025, going 6-7 with a 3.04 ERA.
Scherzer says it's a no-brainer coming back to Toronto. Why is that, Aaron? What did he have to say about that?
Well, it was the year that they had, he said. We obviously came as close as you can possibly do to winning the whole thing. It's something you can never get over or forget or anything of that nature. There's a huge reason why I wanted to come back, because this team can win and I want to be a part of it, is what he's officially declared. Toronto came within 90 feet in the bottom of the ninth inning of Game 7 against the Los Angeles Dodgers at home to winning the World Series. But they made it official on Monday when they signed Scherzer to a 1-year, $3 million contract. Last year, Scherzer made 17 starts in the regular season, finished with a 5.19 ERA, but he pitched well in the playoffs in 3 appearances. He's not coming back to make between 25 and 30 starts. He's coming back to provide depth for Schneider to work with, work his way back slow, and be part of a team that's looking to finish the job that they couldn't close out in 2025.
We'll see what he can do as far as a contribution to the team is concerned. Let's move over to the Toronto Raptors, and let's talk about Brunson, who scored 26 in the previous game against the Knicks.
Yeah, so Jalen Brunson had 26 points and 10 assists. Karl Anthony Towns had 21 points and 12 rebounds, and the Knicks dog walked the Raptors 111-95 on Wednesday for their 5th win in 6 games. After snapping San Antonio's 11-game win streak on Sunday, the Knicks ran their win streak against Toronto to 12 games in a row. The Raptors last beat New York on January 22nd, 2023, which was a 125-116 win at Toronto. The Knicks now have become the 3rd Eastern Conference team to reach 40 wins, joining Detroit and Boston. OG Anunoby had 15 points against his old team. Landry Shamet and Josh Hart each had 12, and Mikal Bridges added 11 for New York. On the flip side, all was not so dark for the Raptors. Brandon Ingram had 31 points. RJ Barrett had 20. This is actually the 4th straight game that they've dropped at home, and they've now dropped to 4-10 against Atlantic Division opponents, which does not bode well for the playoffs. If you can't beat players in your own division, that's going to be a problem.
Absolutely. That is terrible. Let's talk about Sante Porter.
So Jonte was banned from the NBA for gambling. I don't know if anybody recalls, but back in 2024, he was banned for life after a league probe found he had disclosed confidential information to sports bettors and even wagered on games, even betting on the Raptors to lose in games that he could potentially have been participating in. But he is planning on playing professional basketball again. I don't know, maybe a switch to baseball might help this guy. He's signed with the Seattle Superhawks, which is a member of the Independent United States Basketball League. The USBL was originally formed in 1985, ceased operations in 2008, and announced its return in November of 2025. I guess they were looking for a quote-unquote name to sort of come out of the gate with, so why not a former Raptor?
Guy who got a lot of attention because he got banned from the league. Okay.
I wouldn't bet on it, but there you go.
Let's go to the National Hockey League, and as promised, our Canadian teams. Let's start with the oldest Canadian team, other than the Leafs, the Habs.
Yeah, the Habs and Line A look like they're nearing the end of the road. It looks like it might actually be done as early as Friday. It's been trending this way all week. I'm actually kind of surprised I hadn't heard anything sooner. But according to the Athletics' Chris Johnston, Laine was working his way back from core muscle surgery that's limited him to just 5 games this season. They don't have an obvious spot for him in the lineup, and they seemed inclined to move off his contract in order to clear cap room needed for other moves that they're planning on making. While Laine is no longer the game-breaking talent he was, he still has a wicked shot and remains a serious power play threat. They have the ability to retain salary on his expiring contract in order to help facilitate a move. This is the last chance you're going to have to use it because, again, that does disappear. Now, the good news is Laine's contract is expiring, but the Canadians' ability to retain a huge chunk of his salary should make this a reasonable deal for most contenders who are looking for just a short-term rental, assuming the asking price isn't too high. So they most definitely seem to want to have him moved by the end of the week.
They'll have to look into, I wonder, is it possible that he doesn't have to wear skates and he can get a bar stool?
There's always been that.
Right there by the face-off dot, just set him up one of those little tables you see in a bar, and a bar stool, and just wait for the puck to come over him, in the power play and let her rip. Because because that's his talent right now. That's pretty much all he's got left. Well, every career has to come to an end at some point. Father Time wins every debate eventually. It's only a matter of time, and it may be his time already. Let's talk about Celebrini and what he did to the Habs.
He had a goal and 3 assists. It was oof. Kiefer Sherwood scored the tie-breaking goal on a power play with 3:26 remaining, and the Sharks just kind of walked away with it after that. Will Smith, former Mississauga Steelhead Michael Misa, Colin Graff, Alexander Venberg, and Adam Gaudette, also an ex-Maple Leaf, all scored for the Sharks. They won their 3rd straight since a bit of a 4-game skid. Alex Newhook had 2 power play goals for the Canadians. Oliver Kapanen, Phil Deneau, and Ivan Demidov also scored for Montreal, and Mike Matheson had 3 assists. This is the first time that the Canadians have lost in regulation since January 24th. So over 6 weeks without a loss in regulation is definitely something. Next up for the Habs is going to be playing in Anaheim on Friday, and the Sharks are going to be hosting the St. Louis Blues on Friday as well.
Talk to me about the Senators.
I tell you, the Ottawa Senators looked like they had it in the bank last night, but unfortunately the wheels fell off. Brady Tkachuk decided it was a good time in overtime to tackle Connor McDavid to prevent an odd man rush. So that left Evan Bouchard open for a one-timer from the top of the circle to give Edmonton the win. Leon Draisaitl was all in for when it comes to scoring. He had points, 5 points, 2 goals, and 3 assists. Tim Stützle was the best player for the Sens with 2 assists. Jake Batherson scored 2 for the Sens, who were outshot 37-21, and Linus Ullmark made 32 saves. Ullmark has been playing really well since coming back from his little break, and I'm very glad to see that he's enjoying success. Glad to see that Ottawa's enjoying a little more success as well.
They're in a tough position, and their fans are in a tough position. Like, the Leafs not making the playoffs because of how they're achieving that goal. While it does hurt, it's a Band-Aid being ripped off, right? Yeah. Whereas with the Senators, it's like the Band-Aid's there, and you're looking at it, and you're going, I'm running out of time to pull that thing off. It's getting to the point where I'm just going to have to yank on it. And that's what the Senator fans are looking forward to. They're not sure their team's going to make it. And this is a team that was an upward trajectory. The Leafs were in a downward trajectory. So if both those teams don't make the playoffs, if the Senators and the Leafs don't make the playoffs, I think the Senators fans will feel a lot worse than Leaf fans, because Leaf fans have had a lot more time to feel. I've had a lot more time to feel bad about it. Yeah, that's the crazy thing. Let's talk about Scheifele and the Jets.
So it was finally good to see Scheifele score in overtime. The Jets managed to get a 3-2 win over the Chicago Blackhawks last night. Cole Perfetti forced extra time for Winnipeg, tying the game 2-2 with just 38.5 seconds remaining in regulation. Dylan Samberg, who assisted on Scheifele's winner, also scored in the first period for the Jets, who went to overtime for the 4th consecutive game. Teuvo Teravainen and Ryan Green scored for Chicago. Connor Bedard picked up 2 assists. Hellebuck made 18 saves for the win, and Spencer Knight stopped 29 shots for the Blackhawks. I'm just curious, man, at this point here, and I don't know if you've noticed this, but it seems that Connor Hellebuck played dynamite in the Olympics for Team USA, but has looked more human with Winnipeg. I know it's only been a few games since they came off the break, but
I said this to last show. You can say the same thing about Binnington in the Four Nations.
Yep.
Right? So, this is the thing about goaltenders. It's not you want consistency from goaltenders, but what you're going to get from goaltenders is hot streaks. You're going to get when they play really, really well. And then you're going to get when they don't play really well. And the important thing about goaltenders, the great goaltenders, are the ones that shrink that bad part and expand that good part. And Hellebuck expanded it. Really, it came down to he wasn't that good in the Olympics every game. He really wasn't, but he was really good in the last game. And like I said, he was lucky, but you got to be good to be lucky and lucky to be good. So no beasts on that. But that's these championships. You don't remember how hard it was for when people remember the U.S. gold medal, they're remembering it as if they won 10-1 against Canada, right? And that's what we do too when we win big championships, right? The Four Nations, we feel like we dominated America. We won in overtime. Same thing. So you see the difference between the two teams isn't that much. Let's go over to the Canucks and talk about their streak.
So the Canucks were unlucky participants in the Dallas Stars' current franchise record streak. When they played against them on Monday night, they lost 6-1 to the Dallas Stars. Blackwell, Robertson, and Duchesne each scored and had an assist for the Stars. Adam Earn also added a goal for Dallas, while Miro Heiskanen and Sam Steele recorded 2 helpers apiece, and Otter made 13 saves. On the flip side, Nikita Tolopilo scored stopped 31 of the 37 shots he faced in Vancouver's net. They've now lost their 6th straight game. They're 0-4-2 in their past 6, and the Stars are at this point 9-0.
Wow, really good.
Yeah.
And you know what? The Stars moved on to another Canadian team, the one in Calgary, and continued their streak and made it 9, now 10.
Yeah, identical score too, 6-1. So there you go. There seems to be some consistency there. But yeah, they extended their franchise record winning streak to 10 games with a 6-1 win over the Flames. Sam Steele had 2 and added an assist. Jamie Benn, Maverick Bourque, Nathan Bastian, and Wyatt Johnson also scored. Dallas is now 38, 14, and 9. Matt Duchesne had 4 assists, giving him a team best 17 points during the winning streak. Steele and Duchesne tied career highs for points in a game, and Steele tied a career high with 10 goals. He also had that 10 times for Minnesota. He also had 10 goals for Minnesota in 22-23. Dustin Wolf was pulled after giving up 4 goals on 17 shots. Devin Cooley made 16 saves in relief, but also allowed 2. Goaltending again seems to be an issue. Just when you think the Flames have it locked down, everything goes to hell in a handbasket. So there you have it.
There's a symbiotic relationship between the way the team plays defense and the goaltender plays goal, and there's a chasm there if both of them can't play well, and that's the case with the Flames, and that's too bad. Austin Matthews to LA, his hometown. He was born in LA and he was raised in Arizona.
Well, that would definitely be interesting.
I can see it. I can see it working out for the Leafs if LA's really willing to pony up. Go ahead.
I was going to say, who do you think would come back the other way, though? That's the real question.
Well, I would want for him. I would want at least 1 first-round draft pick, and along with that first-round draft pick, I'd want a prospect who's really good at forward and a prospect who's really good at defense. A good defenseman and a really good prospect as a forward. And for me, younger isn't necessarily what we're talking about. If they could get somebody like with around 25, 26 years old, somebody like that who, could help in this Leaf. Because, there are people who are talking about, like, your term, stripping it to the studs, right? I don't think in today's cap world, you can go to the studs because there is no rebuild that can be done quickly, but you can change on the fly, if you will, like the Bruins did. And the other thing is I have the Buffalo Sabres as an example. They didn't change any players. They changed the general manager. And all of a sudden, this team turned into what they were every year, a disappointment, into a league leader. And that's what they are right now. And there weren't any changes made. The only change that was made was a GM. And the last trade that was made before that GM came in. And so for me, Aaron, it's about getting rid of the coach and the general manager. They've got to do it. They talk about culture change. When you talk about culture change, that's what happened in Buffalo. When the GM was removed, the whole work that he'd done that didn't work, the stuff that didn't work, changed where now you have a guy with a fresh set of eyes, a new guy that has your career in his hands, because that's what GMs have. They have players' careers in their hands. And clearly the team reacted better to his being a GM than the previous one. And there was a lot of stuff there's a lot of history that gets eliminated with that GM going out the door. And I don't think anybody can argue about the fact that there's a lot of bad history in the short time that Treliving has been here. And, Treliving doesn't have to worry. Nobody's going to have a tag day for him. His dad helped start Boston Pizza. So, the guy probably has some change, right? He doesn't need the job. So you can't feel sorry for him that way. I just think, unfortunately, with the way this team's playing, Aaron, you can't just change the players. You got to change the GM and the coach. And they've got to bring a GM that understands the league and has had success building a team. Not hoping he can build a team, but experience building a team. And a coach that understands what it's like to coach players who need to be taught and made accountable in the teaching process, not the insults at the end of the game, the stuff when you practice that motivates players to be better and to help them understand this is how you become a pro. Right now, the Leaf team doesn't understand about being professional hockey players. We've seen it with our own eyes. And I hold management always to that. That's on management. You can't blame the players for that. The players have to be given an opportunity to be successful, and they've got to be prepared when they get on the ice. And this team just does not look prepared to hold a lead, doesn't look prepared to start a game, doesn't look prepared to change lines, these are all coaching things in my mind. So it's time to jettison the coach. The sooner they do it, the better. And if you're going to, I would share part of the ripping the players out of the lineup with getting rid of the coach and general manager. That's how I feel about it. It's just not going to work the way it is. And there's too much history here. And that's why I like to trade to LA for Austin Matthews.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that happening. It'd be interesting for sure. But yeah, there is a cultural sea change that needs to happen here for the Maple Leafs. And the sooner it happens, the sooner we can try to get back. The longest playoff attaining streak in the league doesn't mean bupkis if you don't get past the first round.
Well, and absolutely. If you don't, you can't accomplish anything, right? No. And this is not about Austin Matthews. This is about the Toronto Maple Leafs. That should be everyone's first priority. It isn't about poor Austin Matthews, great player, never got a chance to win the big one. It's not about Austin Matthews. Austin Matthews can go anywhere and his luck will change. At the end of the day, the fan base is not leaving Toronto for Ottawa or for, or for Arizona. The fan base is here for the good of the fans and for the good of Austin Matthews. I really think he should be traded. And this team can get players that can be competitive enough to make the playoffs without Austin Matthews.
Yeah, and again, it's not about this. It's about this.
Yep, absolutely. All right, Aaron, that was a lot of fun. Thanks for helping me out here. And as usual, it was fun reading your script. And we'll see you again next time.
All right.
Looking
forward to it, Frank.
Thank you. All right, he's Aaron William Freeland. I'm Candid Frank Stanishi. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again on Monday. Taking Friday off. Got some volunteering to do on Friday.